ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Road, and in today's video, we are going to be going over the top 13, right? Yeah, 13 best front-wheel drive cars for less than $5,000. Why? Why front-wheel drive, you may be asking? Because I always do like the 13 best rear-wheel drive cars, and then I'm like, I'll do a front-wheel drive one. And then I realize I never do. I never end up doing the front-wheel drive one. I always just do the rear-wheel drive one and then forget to do the front-wheel drive one. So now we're making up for it with 13 of the best front-wheel drive cars that you can buy for less than $5,000. Song of the day is called Santeria by Sublime. I don't practice Santeria. Banger. Banger. Such a good song. You guys definitely know it, but if you don't, somehow give that Bad Mother Jammer a listen. It's an absolute banger. Like, it's straight up dad rock. I want to drive a Chevy Silverado at like 7 p.m. in the middle of the summertime with the windows down listening to this song right this instant. Right this instant. Please. Maybe a little bit drunk. Okay, no, I'm just joking. Maybe a little tipsy. No, I'm kidding. Maybe a little bit. Okay, all right, fine, a little bit. On the back road, so on the dirt roads, nobody else is there. We're safe. Without further ado, let's get right into it with number 13. And that, my friends, is going to the Nissan Sentra B15. The third generation of the Nissan Sentra, I want to say. Yeah, because the first one was the B13, then the B14, then the B15. Yeah, so this is the third generation of the Nissan Sentra, and it's probably the most well-known generation of the Nissan Sentra, and for good reason. It's my favorite generation of it. Car comes with a 1.8-liter inline-4, making 126 horsepower, and it's front-wheel drive. It's obviously not that great or anything like that. Spoiler alert, though, not a lot of these cars are going to sound that great when you compare them to other rear-wheel drive cars, because they don't have as much room to fit as big of an engine in the front, because all the stuff is in the front because it's front wheel drive. So it's a little unfortunate, but obviously these cars are also very lightweight, so keep that in mind as well. And the Sentra, it has a special place in my heart because of Need for Speed Underground. I'm gonna be 100% honest. Like, this car was an OG underground car back in the day. I literally had to take a break there and go listen to Santeria because it was stuck in my mind. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It's such a good song. 12th place, Audi TT, first generation. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking, Bob. You're sitting there saying, Mark, the Audi TT is all-wheel drive. It can be all-wheel drive, but most of the base models are front-wheel drive. The car comes with a 1.8-liter turbocharged inline-4, making 170 horsepower, and it is front-wheel drive. Ha! How do you like them apples? It's pretty much, for those who don't know, a rebadged Volkswagen GTI Mark IV. That's pretty much just what it is. But it's a lot more unreliable and not as spacious and not as practical as the Mark IV GTI is, which is obviously a little bit of a downside, but it does look a lot different. So maybe if you like the looks of this over the Mark IV GTI, that will be a reason to get this car. But this is another car that was in the old Need for Speeds, not Underground, but this was the Need for Speed Most Wanted. Such a classic. Coming in at the number 11 spot was in pretty much no racing game that I can think of, actually, off the top of my head, because nobody talks about it, the Mazda MX-6. Now, nobody talks about this car for, well, a pretty decent reason, if I'm being honest, but like, they're cool looking. Okay, now the engine is unreliable. Yeah, is it underpowered? Yeah, but they're a cool looking car. The car comes with a 2.5-liter V6, making 164 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive, obviously. And they're like a weird, you would think, okay, MX-6, so it's obviously going to be like an MX-5 variant, and it's realistically couldn't get further away from the truth. It's got a V6, it's long, not small, it is front wheel drive instead of rear wheel drive, and it really isn't that much of a driver's car like the MX-5 was, but it does look really cool, and that's pretty much the only reason why it's on the list. It's at the number 11 spot because, again, it's not the best car out there, but it's a unique one. Coming in at the number 10 spot is also a pretty slept on car, I would say. Well, it depends on who you're talking to. Some people hype these cars up like crazy, but I would say the vast majority of the car community, they don't talk about these enough. The Hyundai Veloster first generation. The second gen is unfortunately not under $5,000 just yet, but you can find a base model first gen for under $5K now, and that's very, very good. The car comes with a 1.6-liter turbocharged inline-4, making 201 horsepower, and it is front-wheel drive. That's going to be, spoiler alert, one of the highest horsepower numbers on this list. Like, it actually has a really good horsepower number, and Velosters, as we all know, are getting more and more, love because of their good handling. And so it's really just a good car all around. Now, the only reason why I'm putting it at number 10 and not higher is I personally don't really like how it looks. Never liked how the Veloster looks. It looks really wacky to me, and I'm just not a big fan of it. But if you are, then obviously that's a good thing. And coming in at the number 9 spot, it's like the king of front-wheel drive cars, Volkswagen. The Volkswagen Jetta Mark 6, more importantly. the base model, not really like, and I know everybody's sitting out there thinking to themselves, oh, well, what about the GLIs? I want a GLI. You could probably find a Mark 6 GLI under 5K. I don't think it would be the best option, though. The car comes with a 2-liter turbocharged inline-4, making 210 horsepower, and it is front-wheel drive. If I'm not mistaken, that's the same engine that's in the Mark 5 GTIs, and they put them in the Mark 6 Jettas, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't know too much about the Volkswagen. There's just so many different Volkswagen engines and everything, so it's always so confusing. But either way, it is a very, very good, just commuter, daily driver style vehicle. Like, there's a reason why you see everybody and their mama driving a Volkswagen Jetta nowadays. They are quite literally the German Civic, and as we all know, Civics are reliable boys. Coming in at the number 8 spot, on the other hand, is kind of like the opposite of the Mark 6 Jetta. This is not like everybody and their grandmother has one, because it's the Scion TC first generation. The second gen is not under 5K just yet. It's very close though. If you're really patient enough, you probably can find a second gen under 5K, but I would just recommend sticking with the first gen anyways. The car comes with a 2.4 liter inline 4, making 161 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive. A lot of these cars on this list are going to be, you know, forced induction turbocharged cars, and this is one of the only ones that are naturally aspirated, which is pretty cool, and still makes a decent horsepower number. Like 161 horsepower from a naturally aspirated 4-banger, not bad. And then on top of that, is it not the most reliable car out there? Sure, especially when it comes to their transmissions, but they look decent, they look different from anything else on the road. That's something. And these cars were, you know, built with the idea of being a tuner car in mind, so there is aftermarket potential for this car out there. It's not as bad as people think, is what I'm trying to say. And coming in at the number 7 spot is realistically very, very similar to the Scion TC in a lot of ways, but I just love how it looks a little bit more than the Scion TC, so that's why it's going here. The Toyota Celica GT 7th generation. The 7th gen Celicas are actually, in my opinion, really growing on me. I used to hate them. I used to hate how I used to freaking think they were the ugliest things in the world, but now I don't think they're that bad at all. They come with a 1.8 liter inline 4, making 170 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive. Another naturally aspirated car with a decent horsepower number for this list. This one is heavier with a longer wheelbase than the Scion TC, keep that in mind, but it's also slightly more reliable, I would say. It's still not the most reliable. I know you see the Toyota name and you think immediately reliability, but they do have transmission issues. They're kind of notorious for that. And again, they're not the best for building power yet again, but it is another one of those ones where it's like, I don't think the people that are buying them are trying to build them into super fast race cars. They're more buying them because they think they look good and they're just going to get the job done. But if that's what you're looking for, a car that just looks good and you just want to, you know, look cool while driving your car, then I don't think there's any really better option out there right now than the Mitsubishi Eclipse GT 4th gen. If you want a front wheel drive car under 5K, I do think there are better options for rear wheel drive ones, but if it's a front wheel drive one, this is probably your best option, dude. This car is from the factory actually really, really pretty good. It comes with a 3.8 liter V6, making 263 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive. Yet again, the reliability is definitely questionable again, but this is a 263 horsepower. Spoiler alert, this is the highest horsepower number of any car on this list from factory. Now, what's the downside then? What's the catch? Why isn't it any higher? That's pretty much all it can get. Now, this car is not great at building power at all. It just doesn't handle it because it's already not that reliable stock. If you put power in it, it blows to the moon. And so it's really you're kind of capped at the 263 horsepower number. But again, for people that aren't really looking to build the car up into some sort of race car and you just want to look cool, this is a good one. I do think they look good. I think if these cars came with a better engine, people would have loved them because they look cool. It's just that people don't like the engine that comes in them, so now they say they're ugly, and it's like, don't lie, man. And coming in at the number 5 spot, on the other hand, is like kind of the quite 100% total opposite of what we were just talking about, because it's a Mini Cooper S R53. This is not the car that you buy if you want a car that just looks cool. This is the car that you buy if you want a car that's only there to build power. It's literally the complete opposite because it's horribly unreliable, but it can build power. It comes with a 1.6 liter supercharged inline 4, making 180 horsepower, and it's front wheel drive. That's very good for a 1.6 liter, dude. That's 180 horsepower. Yes, I know it's mostly the supercharger giving it that, but that's still really good. And these cars are lightweight with a very short wheelbase. These are very, very track oriented, autocross oriented, hill climb oriented vehicles, and it shows in its reliability because again, these are not reliable like in any way. Pretty much anybody out there that's owned one of these will tell you they're not reliable cars. However, coming in at the number 4 spot is just, I mean, we have gone this far. We went through what, 9 cars now without mentioning Honda once, but you knew dang it well it was going to come, and here it is, the Honda Accord 6th generation. It's just so good in like every way. It really is. The car comes with a 2.3 liter inline 4, making 135 horsepower, and it is front wheel drive. Is that impressive? Not at all. 135 horsepower is obviously not that good, but it is a Honda at the end of the day. It's not the best Honda. I think this is a D series that comes in this car, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not like going to build insane power, but it still can build pretty good power, and the car is very, very lightweight. It's extremely lightweight, and on top of all of that, it's going to do that extremely reliably, probably more reliable than any car we've talked about so far. It does look different, and a lot of people don't like the 6th gen Accords and how they look. I don't think they're bad. I just do think they're a little bit boring, however, but it is just a good option for under 5K. Another car that's, in my opinion, still a good option under 5K. Like, I look at Facebook Marketplace almost every freaking day of my life. I wake up, and it's one of the first things I do on my phone is just start scrolling on Facebook Marketplace. It gives me good motivation. I don't know why. But either way, it's the Acura RSX. I feel like everybody thinks the Acura RSX is like, if you find one under 5K, it's the worst deal ever. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lie. 90% of RSXs under 5K, yeah, they're not good deals. They're bad cars. They're like, they don't buy them. But 10% is still 10%, and like, when you find one, it's going to be worth it. The car comes with a 2-liter inline-4, making 160 horsepower, and it is front-wheel drive. And unlike the Accord, this car was specifically built with the purpose of being a little sports car in mind. The Accord was more meant to be a daily driver. This car was, again, purposely built to be a good handling sports car. So it has better suspension, has better brakes, has better transmission. It's just an overall better car. It has a K series, man. It's a freaking K series, and it looks incredible. Like, the RSX looks awesome as well. Like, there's no downside to an RSX. The only downside is actually buying one is very sketchy. Coming in at second place, we went this far without talking about any Hondas, and then we had 2 Hondas in a row. So we're breaking it up. Don't worry, it's not just a Honda fest up here. Second place is the Volkswagen GTI Mark IV. We pretty much talked about this car a little bit earlier, but now we're going to talk about it a little bit more in depth because it is just an incredible car under 5K right now. It comes with a 1.8 liter turbocharged inline-4, making 170 horsepower, and it is front-wheel drive. And if that sounds familiar, that's because it is. It's, again, the same motor that they put in the Audi TTs we were talking about earlier. So why is it so much higher than the Audi TTs then? Marcus, why do you think this car is so much more worth the money than the Audi TT? Well, first of all, one big thing is I like how they look. I love how the Mark IV GTI looks. I think the Audi TT tried a little bit too hard. It still looks good. I just think it's like a little bit, too much for me. But the big thing is the practicality of a GTI over the TT. It's just so much more like, you're gonna have such a better time owning this car than you will with an Audi TT. First place, and I know what you guys are thinking. What? It's not the Acura TL 3rd generation? Realistically, the Acura TL 3rd generation does deserve first place. I just want to get it out of the way, but I'm not putting it here because I talk about it all the freaking time, and at this point, I've literally mentioned it every single time. So I'm just going to mention it really quick that yes, the Acura TL 3rd gen is an incredible front-wheel drive car under 5K, but for today's video, we went with the Honda Civic 6th generation. This car comes with a 1.6 liter inline-4, making 125 horsepower, and it is front-wheel drive. It is the EK chassis Civic, and it is just, oh, so freaking perfect. I love everything there is about the 6th generation Civics. They just look so, like, perfect. They look like they're so unassuming, but with very, very simple mods. People go overboard with Civics all the time. They race them out. But with very simple mods, just a nice little, like, body kit, maybe make it look like an SI, but a nice little SI wing on there. It can look incredible and just, like, such a track-oriented car. These cars are barely heavier than a Miata. Yes, it has 125 horsepower, but, dude, it's an EK Civic. You can literally go to a soup kitchen, and they're going to be giving out B-series turbos. Like, it's not hard to build these things up into absolute monsters. In it's still, after all of that too, with a turbo on it, with all this upgraded baloney, full bolt-ons, whatever it may be, all upgraded on your EK Civic, guess what? It'll still be more reliable than almost every other car on this list besides the Hondas, and that's insane. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the top 13 best front-wheel drive cars for less than $5,000. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos that I see in the comment section down below. And again, I know you guys are probably sitting there thinking, where's the Acura TL? You talk about that car literally all the time. You love it. You think it's an incredible car under 5K. Yeah, I do. I 100% do. As a matter of fact, it probably deserved first place on this list. But like you said there, Jimothy, I talk about it in every single one of my videos, so I wanted to just change it up a little bit and do something different. But the Acura TL 3rd gen is, yeah, it's an incredible car. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but 3 of the top 5 cars on this list were Hondas. It's just, they're just good. I wanted to include the Integra. I own an Integra. I wanted to include that too, but then I was like, okay, you know what? I can't include an Integra and an RSX. They're like the same freaking. The RSX is theoretically just a better car. Like, it's just no point in including both of them. There's just like, if realistically speaking, you could have made this list do 13 great front wheel drive cars, and 9 of them could have been Hondas, and I don't think anybody would have been like, that's wrong. Like, you still would have probably been correct. They just know, they have nailed the design of hot front wheel drive economy fun cars perfectly. They have just nailed it, and that's pretty much it. They've done absolutely incredible works when it comes to that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry I missed an upload yesterday, by the way. That wasn't because I was being lazy. It was actually I went out to dinner with my sister, who lives an hour and a half away, so we ended up driving an hour and a half out there, had dinner with her, and then we went over to her like apartment, just hung out there for a little while, and then we finally went home. I just didn't have time. There was no time for me to get any work done, obviously, yesterday, so that's the reason why. It wasn't because I was lazy. So I know I said to slash my tires if I forget to upload every once in a while. I didn't forget to upload last night. That wasn't like me being a nefarious bad YouTuber moment. That was me being a wholesome brother moment, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I gotta get a haircut. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.